Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for That Ignite Ask the Experts. Today, we're going to be covering Azure Platform Security. I have here with me a set of experts from our Azure Security team, and we're going to spend the next 30 minutes trying to do our best to answer as many questions as we can. What we can, we'll make sure that we're going to answer or reply offline through the forums or email. Good morning, evening, afternoon, depending where you are. My name is Avi. I'm the Director of Program Management for Azure Security. And our team is responsible essentially to secure the Azure platform from the bottoms up. So for us, it's a good opportunity to really engage in this forum and try to answer as many questions as we can. So how it's going to work, we would all love to be in person and have those conversations face-to-face as we always do, but we try to adapt to the new format. So with the help of teams, we're going to do our best to kind of moderate the Q&A, ask as many questions as you want, and we will try to kind of answer as many as we can. And then we have the standard etiquette and just standards, Microsoft standards. I think we can move past those slides. So who we are, so again, my name is Avi. I'm the Director of Program Management for Azure Security, and I have with me 4 of my esteemed colleagues, and I'll have them introduce themselves. Amrita.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amrita. I'm a Principal Program Manager in Azure Security team, and I drive the Security Benchmark program across all our Azure products. So you can ask me any questions on the benchmark or anything related to security controls. Thank you.
I'm Jack Richens. I'm a Principal Program Manager on Avi's team, and I drive Azure Data Protection.
Hi all, I'm Ronit Rager. I am a Principal Program Manager on the Azure Security Center product team. I focus on topics of compliance and security posture management, and also work together with the team on the Azure Security Benchmark.
I'm Ranjeev. I'm the Principal PM Lead for Azure Key Vault. So I focus and manage HSM. So we focus on basically protecting Azure secrets and everything associated with it.
Okay, so thanks very much for introduction, and maybe I wanted to cover just briefly a couple of topics. So Amrita, if you can start, if you can tell us a little bit about what the Azure Security Benchmark is and how it's helping our customers and why we started doing it in the first place.
Absolutely. So Azure Security Benchmark is Azure's own security control framework, and it's based on industry standard like CIS and NIST. And the main goal of the benchmark is to help our customers to meet their control requirements easily on the cloud. So as you can see, it has 3 key focus areas, and the first focus area is to provide guidance to our customer on how to meet the control requirement using the benchmark documentation. And today we see that a lot of customers use it as part of their control assessment process. And the second focus area is standardizing all our Azure products based on the benchmark requirement, so that as a customer, you can get consistent security features across all our products. And the third focus area is to enable our customers to monitor their environment against the benchmark requirement using Security Center, so that they can understand how compliant it is, and based on that they can plan and remediate and meet the requirements.
Okay, thanks, Amrita. It's a good introduction. And then a quick question for Ronit. If you can talk a little bit about Azure Security Center, cloud workload protection, and how Azure Security Center offers all of that.
Absolutely. So Security Center really comprises 2 broad areas of cloud security. Those are cloud security posture management and cloud workload protection. Now, the security posture management really focuses mostly on your cloud resource configurations from a security perspective, including recommendations on security misconfigurations, Secure Score to measure and track your overall security posture, and asset inventory. The Security Center Security Posture Management Suite also includes an experience for managing compliance requirements, whether based on the Azure Security Benchmark, which is the default security framework that guides Security Center recommendations, or for managing other regulatory or industry standard compliance requirements. Now, the cloud workload protection element of Security Center is what we call Azure Defender, And that focuses on advanced, intelligent, active protection of your Azure and hybrid resources and workloads. Azure Defender includes a wide range of intelligent detection capabilities, which span many Azure resources in depth, including IaaS servers and PaaS services, including data services like Azure SQL Database and Azure Storage, along with Azure Kubernetes Service and more. And it also provides breadth protection by identifying anomalous activities on the management plane, on the networking layer, on Key Vault, and holistically protecting against DDoS attacks. Now, these detections are surfaced to you, the customer, as alerts, either individual alerts for each suspicious and potentially nefarious activity that's detected, and correlated incidents based on Fusion Analytics for understanding the full pattern of an attack. So these individual alerts are actually mapped to the MITRE attack matrix to associate their perceived intent, and incidents can help reveal kill chain patterns. You have many options for how to manage these alerts raised by Security Center, including the ability to trigger automated responses to mitigate the threat, for example, or an option to suppress noisy alerts. And information is always provided for how to prevent future attacks, with actionable recommendations on how to reduce the attack surface. Finally, Azure Defender also includes many additional features to help protect your workloads, like just-in-time access to secure management ports, adaptive application controls to intelligently limit the apps that are running on your machines, and in-depth vulnerability assessments on your machines and container registries, which is powered by the industry-leading Qualys VA scanners. And what's more, these Defender abilities apply not only to Azure resources, but to hybrid workloads. So you can extend the protection to on-premise servers or databases, as well as those in other clouds, all by leveraging Azure Arc.
Okay. Thanks so much, Ronit. Next quick question is about Key Vault for Rajiv. If you can spend just a few minutes talking about what Key Vault protects and how it can help our customers.
Sure. So as many of you know, Key Vault helps protect all of your certs, keys, and secrets across many different Azure properties and, of course, any of your own custom-based applications. In some cases, we do use HSMs behind the scenes to protect the keys. And similarly, with Manage HSM, we are doing the same. So effectively, Key Vault allows you to manage your apps, your secrets, monitor them, and then manage your applications all in a seamless workflow. And so we continue to enhance those products as it comes out, and you'll soon be hearing more about that as we go forward.
Okay, thanks, Rajiv. And then lastly, Jack, encryption is a big thing for our customers. We've been hard at work implementing it across the stack. Can you spend a few minutes talking about what scenarios it covers?
Yeah, absolutely. We start in Azure with a server-side encryption that's built in so that our services are encrypting all the data whenever you're storing it in Azure with platform managed keys. We add on to that a layer that's optional where the customer can manage their keys in Key Vault, as Rajiv just mentioned. And many services allow you to do both of those at the same time to give you double encryption. And this gives you defense in depth against key loss or misconfiguration of any one layer of encryption. And then in addition to that, many of our services also provide support for client-side encryption. So with these different layers, you can have a very complete protection of your data encrypted at rest.
Okay, thanks, Jack. So with that, I think we have already a couple of questions that are queued up. We're going to show this slide again at the end with the resources that you can use for the various components we talked about. But let's start with one of the questions. I saw a couple of questions already on Azure Security Center and whether or not we can complement benchmark with additional controls and how the Secure Score ties into everything. So Ronit, maybe you want to take that.
Yeah, definitely. So the benchmark is basically the basis for all Security Center recommendations, and Secure Score is built on that. Given that, the customer has a lot of options for customizing the benchmark controls and also the score to their needs. So, for example, a customer can define exemptions for specific resources or even entire recommendations if they don't apply to their environment. And those exemptions also contain additional information. They can contain expiration time. They can contain kind of justification for that exemption and that kind of thing. So that's one way to customize. And in addition, if the customer wants to complement, if you want to complement the controls and the recommendations that we have with additional ones, you can also actually add custom recommendations by onboarding custom Azure policy initiatives, and then those actually are then seen in a single overall view with all of your recommendations in Security Center. So in that way you really have the flexibility to customize the entire kind of security posture management experience based on your specific needs.
Okay, thanks, Ronit. Next question is about Key Vault. I'll have Rajiv pick this one up. If you can talk about best practices for storing and maintaining keys in Key Vault. I know it's a common question that we're getting. If you can expand on that a bit.
Sure. So generally speaking, across any of our keys, certificates, or passwords and other types of secrets that you may have, we do recommend that you store them, you version them, but that you rotate them frequently. And so many of those things are basically based on what you believe is the best course of action, from how often you want to rotate those things, how many versions you want to keep. So we have our own internal guidelines of what we tell people about how often you want to rotate those things. Generally speaking, when you have secrets, we are usually suggesting 70 days or less. And with certificates and keys, it is more frequent than that. Keys can be up to 2 years. Certificates at this point are 1 year. Some of that, though, you do have to balance across what is easy for you to maintain, how you have to maintain those across your applications, and everything else that's associated with it. But generally speaking, the direction we are moving in is to basically rotate your secrets as frequently as you possibly can.
Okay, thanks, Rajiv. Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, but we also have some folks behind the scenes that are posting answers on the chat, and Amit posted some links to our Key Vault best practices. So if there are any follow-up questions to that, please do, and we'll do our best to pick them up, during the session. Okay, let's see. There are quite a few questions. I think another good one, which also relates to some of the other products that we don't cover today, like Sentinel, which is our cloud-native SIEM. And maybe, Ronit, you can pick this up. What's your recommendation for integrating security alerts with external incident management systems, or I guess SIEM systems as well?
So what we have in Security Center is actually a way to automatically connect. We have a connector directly with Sentinel. So certainly if you're using our cloud-native SIEMs, Azure Sentinel, then you have a direct connector there where all the alerts that would come from Security Center would automatically go directly into Sentinel. In addition, if you are using a different SIEM aside from Sentinel, then you have options to continuously export that you can set up. You can set up continuous export for all of your alerts data. You can send that to a log analytics workspace or to an event hub, and then stream it directly into that SIEM. So we definitely have those options to directly connect to other SIEM systems, and you can manage all of your alerts from all different types of resources there.
Okay. Yeah, and then if you have links, Ronit, later, maybe we can post those as well for folks. It's a great question. Next question is around, let's talk about BYOK a little bit and encryption. Jack, the question is there a roadmap to remove limit in Key Vault in the same subscription? Possible to use site protection BYOK for encrypted disks?
Right. So as the question puts it, right now there's a limitation for VM disk encryptions, whether it's using Azure disk encryption or managed disk encryption with customer managed keys. Both of them require the Key Vault to be in the same subscription as the VM. There's no short-term roadmap to remove that, but that is a challenge that we're aware of. Thank you.
Okay.
I would add that limitation does not apply to our other encryption at rest, such as blob storage encryption or SQL or Cosmos DB, etc. This is specific to VMs.
Okay. Let's see what else we got. Maybe we'll stay in the same topic. Rajiv, about Key Vault, or Jack, talk about the algorithms we're using today to protect keys and secrets in Key Vault.
Sure, right. So we store RSA-based keys. and ECC keys effectively. With Manage HSM, we are going a little bit further there. The specifics actually in that case basically match, but also in that particular case, we also support asymmetric keys in that particular case.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's pick up the next question. I know Mital answered, but Ronit, if you want to expand, is it possible to, I guess, configure Defender on only specific VMs or other? What's the level of granularity we have to control on how Defender operates in different resources?
So the way the Defender packages are set up today is that they are enabled on the subscription level or on the management group level. So the idea is that all of the resources within that subscription would have Azure Defender enabled, and that's true for the Azure Defender for VMs package and also for the others. So Azure Defender for whether it's for SQL servers, whether it's for storage, and so on. Those today can be enabled only at the subscription or management group level.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ronit. Maybe one more for you as it relates to Secure Score. I guess it's a popular topic tonight. So the question was, from end user perspective, what I want to know is the Secure Score applies to which one of these secure by design or secure by development or secure by operation? I think it's a great question that also relates to Amrita and the benchmark and how do we think about the various controls and how Secure Score applies to the various categories of those controls. So maybe Amrita, you can spend a little time talking about the different categories we have today in the security benchmark and then how Secure Score applies to those.
So today, what we're doing, we're working on the secure by default vision, and what it means is that today as part of the benchmark, we're providing the recommendation how to secure your environment. So the idea behind is that now will enable you to enforce those recommendations. So so basically, once you start an environment and you enable this secure by default initiative, then that will help to meet all your default requirements. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's also the part of the question. Again, we're trying to kind of understand the question, so I hope I understood it right. I think that part of the question was, how do we think about Secure Score? Just for runtime ops? Is it also for the development time, right? Kind of the shift left element of our CSPM components, right? So maybe I'll try to take a stab, and Ronit can correct me if I'm wrong. Today, the way that we position the Secure Score and recommendations in Azure Security Center, they are based on set of controls, as Amrita mentioned, that are based on either NIST or CIS today. But most of them today encapsulate mostly our ops type controls. They don't today, while they're there, we don't capture them or automatically calculate them when it relates to pre-production or development time. So right now, that's the only set of controls that are reflected in Azure Secure Score. Sorry, and then, but down the road, it will start capturing also pre-production, like development related controls. So that is definitely something that we're planning to do. Okay. Let's see. We have a good question about Bastion. We're gonna post that, the answer to that on the chat in a second, just because networking specific topic. Another one, maybe Amrita, is about the benchmark mapping. So do you provide mapping to standard regulations, NIST, ISO, GDPR from Azure Security Benchmarks, so that customers can evaluate the impact from not complying to a specific control? Maybe it's a question to both of you, Amrita and Ronit, but Amrita, if you can take first stab.
Yes, so today the benchmark is based on NIST and CIS. So you can see the mapping, like when you go to the benchmark documentation, you can see for every recommendation that we have, how it maps to NIST. And also in coming weeks, we'll be publishing the reverse mapping. So if you're using a NIST standard, then you can see how it maps to ASP. Regarding ISO and GDPR, ISO is in our roadmap and we'll be working on it. And GDPR is in the longer term time frame. We don't have a specific date for that yet.
Okay,
So maybe to add to that a little bit, so that's, that's how we're mapping basically the benchmark controls, which really are the kind of canonical set of controls that we think of from the Microsoft security perspective and how they map to each of the standards that we've mapped so far, and as Amrita said, the additional ones in the roadmap. But in the Security Center regulatory compliance dashboard, you can see how different additional standards like ISO and specifically NIST, and we're also working on GDPR, map to specific recommendations and assessments on Azure resources. So, and then you can basically understand how those actually relate also to the controls we have in the benchmark. So there is an ability to also manage specifically the requirements from those standards within the Security Center experience.
Okay. Thank you, Ronit. Thank you, Amrita. I skipped one question that maybe we can go back to because looks like there are a couple of folks that want to hear that as well. So is there a way to centrally configure and manage exclusions for Defender on Azure servers? Clients have Intune. What kind of licenses are required? So I don't know if it's Microsoft Defender like MDATP or MDE, or are we talking about Azure Defender or Azure Security Center? So maybe Ronit, let's take the Azure Security Center maybe licensing question. If you can pick this one for MDE, I think that's going to be a different conversation.
Yeah, so the way Azure Defender for servers is licensed is basically, as we said, it's a subscription level. Essentially, Azure Defender can be enabled for a subscription, and then all of the servers there are covered with all of the alerts we have. Now we also have integration with the XDR solution with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and you do get all of those alerts as kind of built in when you are using Security Center for those resources as well. So once you're onboarding those resources and they are included as part of the subscription that you're mapping, then within Security Center you can get the alerts for those as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Ronit. Man, time flies. Let's see what else do we have in the queue. Okay, great question maybe for Amrita is on guest config and policy, maybe not specifically to the benchmark, but I think it closely ties. How are other professionals implementing OS hardening with Azure Automation, desired state configuration, introducing Microsoft Windows Security Baseline? So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about our guest config and how do we drive enforcement or hardening via policy?
Definitely. So today is, as you mentioned, that there are various ways where customers are doing the enforcement of a baseline for a OS, and we consider OS baseline as a compute benchmark. So today you can use in-guest policy to do that one, and that's the best practice we are recommending. And very soon you will be seeing a monitoring of baselines using in-guest policy as well as remediation and enforcement.
Okay. Thank you, Amrita. I'm trying to kind of find the next great question. Rajiv, a question for you. When will Key Vault access policy supported with Azure Lighthouse groups?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have been talking about it internally, but we have nothing officially planned for this at that moment. At this moment, we are talking about it could happen in what we call our next semester, so possibly sometime after June and December. But we have nothing official on that at this moment.
Okay. Okay, one more. I'm going down the list. Amrita, is there scope to include country-specific compliance policies versus just industry standards? So in the questions, like for example, e.g. in New Zealand we use NZ SIEM. So I don't know if we are planning to introduce country-specific regulations as well.
That's right. And today, actually, regulatory compliance dashboard already shows that, but they are not part of the benchmark yet. But those are something are already in our roadmap.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that the key there is that we are supporting today the benchmark is really the core, I guess, union of all the key security controls that we recommend for Azure, but there's also the specific reflections that are the individual control sets like NIST, like ICS, like additional specific regulations and compliance frameworks. Okay, I think it's a good question. Let's see, what do we get next? Okay, let's see, maybe one for Ronit. We have a lot of new policies, recommendations added to ASC policy supporting alignment to the benchmark. Understanding that these are released in preview, not impacting Secure Score. Nevertheless, large number of changes can take some time to review and to remediate. How do you determine the priority of new recommendations, for example, via the community, and will the benchmark alignment reduce the volume of change? It's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And in fact, the benchmark initiative, given that it is also standardizing security capabilities across very many Azure services, is definitely creating kind of an explosion of security recommendations that we can now publish and have as part of Secure Score, which is great on the one side because it exposes a lot more. On the other hand, we understand that it takes time to be able to adopt those. That's part of the reason, of course, that we've released those in preview at first, and they don't affect the Secure Score. But then the thinking is that in principle, when there is a key security consideration, then it should be applicable to across all different resources that it applies to. And so that's really what the kind of the essence of Secure Score is about, right? These Secure Score controls that do have the higher prioritization, the higher number of points, are the ones that we feel are more critical to securing. And that's true again, even with the kind of the additional recommendations that we're adding that are assigned to those scores. So that's something to look at. We are also kind of looking at that Secure Score model and thinking more about how to really help prioritize even further and to make sure that you're covering the most critical security elements. But yeah, the hope is that once we have better standardization across the platform, also the amount of change will start to stabilize, and we'll start to see that stabilize more.
Okay, thanks, Ronit. Maybe one more for you while we have you here. Is there a possibility to grab security events from Azure Security Hub or Security Center and place them in in-house SIEM? So if I want to integrate Azure Security Center with my in-house SIEM, how would that look like?
Yeah, so given that we do have the ability to do that continuous export of alerts to event hubs, then essentially you have the ability to then go and connect that anywhere. And so that you can connect that back to your in-house SIEM, to any third-party SIEM. Of course, we have the kind of better together and easy story with Sentinel, where you just need to define a connector there. But for an in-house SIEM as well, you can definitely stream those alerts in real time.
Yeah, I think that also in general, one of the guidance that we have as part of the benchmark is that all of the Azure services emit their security logs to Azure Monitor. So everything that's there can be automatically also exported to any on-premises or other cloud SIEMs as well, including Sentinel, of course. Rajiv, there's a question just about Key Vault standards and where can teams find the Key Vault standards such that they convince their security teams that it is following all the best practices and guidelines. So I know we have tons of those, so maybe we can post a link to the security standards that we're using. Yeah,
absolutely. We have it should be part of our public documentation, and it's even out on some of the Azure standards thing. But sure, you can reach out to us and we can publish those. Yeah.
Okay. Then we have 2 minutes, and I'll pick one more from Rita. Which refresh rates to expect regarding the controls in our security benchmark? Is that are we going to update the benchmark every month, year, 6 months? What's the cadence?
So we are thinking of every 9 to 12 months. That's the cadence, because we wanted to give customers time to basically use the latest version. So you should not be seeing anything less than that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I expect that as we start, we probably, in the first few months, we will update it more frequently as we expand the benchmark. But to your point, yeah, we're going to go into a more standard cadence probably next year or so.
That's right. And Avi, while we're talking about benchmark, there was a question related to if external companies can provide local regulations as part of to complement the benchmark. So on that, we would love to work with anyone who is working on different regulatory compliance and wanted to provide recommendations that we can add to benchmark. So it would be great if you can reach out to us and we can work with you.
Okay. And then no we're at time, so I'll pick one more question. Ronit or Amrita, Azure policy, can security policies be used to block non-compliant resource deployment? I think that's the question. I think it's great because we're seeing so many customers using Azure Security Center and Azure Security Benchmark, and the question is, can we deploy an automated policy to block all bad behavior, and what that looks like?
I can take that one. Exactly. So that is exactly our secure by default story, where we are going to have a new initiative where we can have all the deny policies, Azure policy, which can block your resource deployment if it doesn't meet the requirement. So that's coming up very soon. So keep in touch and we'll keep you updated on the progress.
Okay, so with that, I think that was really, really fast, 30 minutes. Thanks everyone for attending this session. I hope it was you found it useful. It was really, really great set of questions. Whatever we could not, do today, we'll probably try to address offline as well. We have some resources for the various products we covered today, and our email at the bottom, just in case we couldn't get your question. So again, thank you so much for attending, and see you around Ignite.